Hi everybody and welcome to my kitchen. The days are getting longer, it's also getting warmer. So today I want to start a brand new series. It's all going to be about one of the most famous types of food in the world. I'm talking about the carby, comforting, delicious Italian food. There's nothing more Italian than pasta, at least in my opinion. So today I'm going to show you how to make some homemade pasta. It requires only 2 ingredients, so let's get started. This pasta dough is completely universal and it only requires some flour and eggs. I'm gonna go ahead and weigh my flour. Usually I like to work off 100 grams of flour per 1 egg. Obviously it may vary slightly if your eggs are massive or tiny, but that's a good rule of thumb to go by. Also, traditionally you would use 0 flour. I don't have that at home. I'm not gonna go out and buy it specifically for this recipe, so I'm just gonna use plain flour. I'm sure all you guys at home have that as well. So because I'm planning to use 4 eggs, I need 400 grams of flour. 401, 400. And that's it, let's get started. Typically, I like to make my pasta in a bowl, but I know the traditional way is to make it on the countertop, so I'm gonna give that a bash, see how I get on. So you can just dump your flour into your work surface, make a bit of a mound, and using your hands, just make a well in the center. I wanna make my hole in the middle big enough that my eggs will fit in, but also not too big that my edges get really thin, because the last thing I want to happen is for me to break through the flour barrier and then my egg will spill everywhere. But this is good to me. Let's crack in our eggs. And now you can use your hands, but I'm gonna use a fork. Just whisk your eggs in the middle of your flour mound and very, very slowly start pulling in flour from the sides. It should all come together into a paste first, and at that point we move on and mix with our hands. Okay, it's getting hard to mix with the fork, so I'm gonna go in with my hands. Just bring it all back together. If it spills, it's a messy job, but it'll come together. At this point, you can also use a bench scraper to help you with mixing. And at this point, don't panic if it looks like your mixture is too dry. We can fix that afterwards, but you definitely don't want it to be too wet. Bring all your shaggy bits to your main ball of dough. Okay, and when we're at this point, we can start kneading. This is gonna be a bit of a workout. You're gonna have to be kneading for about 10 minutes. We really want to build that gluten in the pasta, so it requires a bit of effort. As you're kneading at the beginning, try to pick up those last remaining bits of flour. I'm about halfway through my kneading time now. It is a workout, but I can feel how smooth my ball of dough is becoming. At the beginning it seemed like it was never gonna come together, but it's coming along very, very well. For kneading, I would say do your own technique. I think officially you should pull on your dough and fold it back on itself and roll it back, and then keep doing the same, but as you get tired, as long as you're moving it around, you're doing a good job. Okay, it's been 10 minutes and you can see how smooth my ball of dough is, and if you press it, it bounces right back. This is perfect. Okay, the next step, we have to wrap our dough up in cling film. And just make sure that you're letting in as little air as possible, because the air will dry out your dough. And that's the last thing that you want. Now that we have it wrapped up, you can put it in the fridge to rest. It 100% is to rest. At a minimum for half an hour. I'm gonna leave mine for about an hour. It's been an hour and here's my dough. The next step is to roll it out and then we can cut it into our different pasta shapes. Usually I would do this with a rolling pin. It does require a lot of effort, and I find that it's quite difficult to get it as thin as you need it. Fresh pasta tends to expand quite a bit when it's being cooked, so you want to make sure that you get it super thin so you don't end up with super thick chunks of pasta at the end. Today I'm going to be using this pasta machine, which should give me a nice and even thickness or thinness to my entire pasta before I go to cut it. So let's see how we get on. I'm going to open up my little parcel of dough. And it's funny because as the dough actually rests, it gets wetter on the outside. That's because any bits of dry flour have now soaked up as well a lot of the liquid that was in the dough itself. So it's nice and tacky now. I'm gonna cut my dough into 4 pieces. I'm gonna work with 1/4 at a time, but make sure you cover well the quarters you're working with because you don't want them to dry out. Not yet anyway. We don't want it sticking anywhere anymore, so you can coat it with flour. And almost even press it down with your hand. And I'm gonna run it through the widest setting on my machine. You can see how thin my dough is getting already, but I'm gonna fold it on itself once and run it through the same setting a second time. After doing that twice, I'm gonna cover it with flour again. The last thing you want is for your dough to stick in your roller. And I'm gonna move it to the next setting, which is number 6 for me. Same as before, I'm gonna fold it and put it through the machine one more time. By doing this fold and passing the dough through the machine 2 times, it helps us to create a more uniform shape. You see we almost have a perfect rectangle now. Fold it up one more time. I'm gonna fold it up, but I think this is pretty much the thickness that I want. I don't know if you can see it, but I can actually see my hands through the pasta. And you can see how square this is now. My ends are pretty much even. If you feel your pasta is getting too long for you to manage, you can cut it in half and continue. You're gonna have to cut it anyway, because otherwise it will be way too big. One final sprinkle of flour. You can move it to number 2. And I think that's gonna be my last setting, but we'll see how we get on. Let's do our final turn. And that's our delicious pasta. I'm really curious to run it through number 1, so I'm gonna see what happens. Definitely want to make sure that I sprinkle a little bit of extra flour. And that's my pasta. I can almost see through it. I'm gonna cut it in half and then start cutting out some shapes. With these, I want to make some pappardelle. So at this point again, flour generously. You do not want your pasta to stick. I'm just gonna roll it up like this. I mean, you can trim the edges if you want. Homemade food, you know how I feel about the rustic look. Just fold it up. And take a very sharp knife and don't cut down, because you might end up pressing the pasta sheets together. So kind of do a bit of a sewing motion until you cut through. Because I want pappardelle, I'm gonna keep them pretty wide. And if all's gone well, you can unravel them. And there's your delicious pasta. Of course, these are quite long. If you wanted to bulk it up a little bit, you could cut them in half and you'll still be doing well. But you can just wrap them around. Just like this a little bit, and put them in a basket to dry out. I'm gonna do the same with my other sheet of pasta. We have our delicious ribbons of homemade pasta. Let me roll out one of the other ones and I'll show you how to make some tagliatelle. I'm going to show you two ways to do it, one with a knife, which is very easy, or if you have an attachment to your pasta machine like I do, and that has a tagliatelle setting, you can also use that. When you put your pasta sheet through the cutting setting, you want to make sure at this point that it's well floured. You've done all the work. What a pity it would be if it gets stuck. And then you're going to carefully put it through your machine. And that is your tagliatelle. So simple. Okay, I'm gonna flour my surface a little bit and take my nice tagliatelle and just fold it nicely into a bird's nest shape, and you can leave there to dry. You can do the same with our other bunch. And there it is. Now I'm gonna cut my tagliatelle. Just roll up your sheet of pasta. You can trim off the edges if you're fussy. Actually, I will do that. This will just mean all of our little noodles will all be even. And then, using a sewing machine, cut out your shapes. You can roll them out, and that's your perfect tagliatelle. Let's roll out one final sheet of pasta. I'm about halfway through making my lasagna sheets. I've noticed that if you pull your pasta as you're rolling it, it gets thinner quicker. But obviously don't pull too hard that you end up tearing your pasta sheet. Also, when you're handling your pasta sheet, when it gets to this length, you can see I'm not using my fingers. I'm using my entire hand to handle it, because if you try to do it with your finger, you probably end up tearing it. And on the last round of my lasagna, we're almost there. I finished rolling out my pasta dough. So I'm going to cut it into lasagna sheets, which is the easiest pasta shape. Obviously you can tailor this to whatever size your lasagna dish is going to be. But for me, I want a standard of about this size. So that's my first sheet. And I mean, you can use this as a template if you're really fussed that all your sheets are the same size. But yeah, for a lasagna, the noodles are hidden, so who's gonna know? I'm not gonna tell. I think my big sheet was just the right size. There we go. That is absolutely perfect. That's your lasagna sheets. We're all done rolling and cutting our pasta. We made some deliciously thick pappardelle. We have our tagliatelle, we've got our lasagna sheets, and I've got some spare dough here, which you can actually keep in the fridge, so you can make this the weekend and then just roll it out and have some delicious freshly made pasta for a weeknight dinner. Once we've cut our pasta into our shapes, it keeps very well. It dries out. Because this is a fresh pasta, you cook it by boiling it in heavily salted water and literally will take no more than 2 minutes to cook. It's not like your store-bought pasta. This is ready in minutes. Actually, it freezes very well like this as well. So you can pop it in the freezer just in a Ziploc bag and take it out whenever you need to have some homemade pasta, and you cook it straight from frozen. Don't let it thaw out because it's gonna get soggy. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is the beginning of a new series of delicious Italian-inspired food. If you want to see what dishes I'm going to use this pasta for, make sure you are subscribed. You absolutely don't want to miss it. Our videos come out every Sunday. If you have any suggestions as to how you think I should use this pasta, make sure you put it in the comments below. With that, I leave you for this video and enjoy. Arrivederci.